Hey everyone, I am Mark J. Ogutanggogan, and the continuation of Goleman's emotional intelligence theory is my topic for today's video. The continuation of the children and adolescent learners and learning principles featuring socio-emotional development. Topic: Goleman's emotional intelligence theory. So Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence theory outlines 5 components of EQ or emotional quotient. So there are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Emotional intelligence can be applied to meet goals and targets, as well as create a happier and healthier working culture. So here is the 5. So, so here in the right corner, so we've noticed the Venn diagram of emotional intelligence. So perceiving emotions, managing emotions, using emotions, and understanding emotions. So now let's move on to the introduction. With regard to emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman was not the first to articulate the concept. However, in the double role of psychologist and journalist, Goleman made the elements of emotional intelligence accessible to broad segments of society. His best-selling books, beginning with Emotional Intelligence, written in the year 1995, have already changed how some businesses interact with clients and some managers recruit employees. His impact has been even more profound on education. Thanks to Goleman, educators now recognize that emotional intelligence is very bit as important to learning as intellectual prowess or IQ, or in other words, intelligent quotient. As a result, tens of thousands of schools throughout the world currently incorporate social and emotional learning in their curricula. In some schools, courses geared toward developing emotional intelligence are mandatory. Decades, researchers have studied the reasons why a high IQ or intelligent quotient does not necessarily guarantee success in the classroom or the boardroom. By the 1980s, psychologists and biologists, among others, were focusing on the important at other skill sets needed to process emotional information, played in promoting worldly success, leadership, personal fulfillment, and happy relationships. In 1990, psychologist John Mayer, now at the University of New Hampshire, and Peter Salovey of Yale theorized that a unitary intelligence underlay those other skill sets. They coined the term emotional intelligence, which they broke down into 4 branches. Number 1, identifying emotions on a nonverbal level. Number 2, using emotions to guide cognitive thinking. Number 3, understanding the information emotions convey and the actions emotions generate. Lastly, regulating one's own emotions for personal benefit and for the common good. A science reporter for the New York Times, Goldman was exposed to a mayor's and O work and took the concept of emotional intelligence a step further. In his eponymous book from 1995, he argued that existing definitions of intelligence needed to be reworked. IQ or intelligent quotient was still important, but intellect alone was no guarantee of adeptness in identifying one's own emotions or the emotional expressions of others. It took a special kind of intelligence, Goleman said, to process emotional information and utilize it effectively, whether to facilitate good personal decisions, to resolve conflicts, or to motivate oneself and others. Here's the 5 concepts of emotional intelligence: social skills, motivation, empathy, self-regulation, and self-awareness, as you can see on the screen. So below, here's the 5 examples of the 5 components of emotional intelligence. Number 1, self-awareness. Self-awareness refers to the capacity to recognize and understand emotions and to have a sense of how one's actions, moods, and the emotions of others take effect. Example of self-awareness are self-awareness also includes recognizing that how we feel and what we do are related and having awareness of one's own personal strengths and limitations. Self-awareness is associated with being open to different experiences and new ideas and learning from social interactions. Number 2, self-regulation. So in the digital environment, there are self-regulation. Number 1, the per the personal regulation, metacognition, and motivation. So in the behavioral self-recognition, there was self-observation and self-judgment. In number 3, in or environmental self-regulation, there are social experience and active experience and environmental structure. The social skills. Social skills including develop alliances, coordination, competence, help, rules, goals, training, acquire, thinking, mentoring, relations, learning, ability, and develop. This, this component of L refers to interacting well with other people. It involves applying an understanding of the emotions of of ourselves and others to communicate and interact with others on a day-to-day basis. Example, social skills include active listening, verbal communication skills, non-verbal communication skills, leadership, and developing report. For empathy. Empathy refers to being able to understand how other people are feeling. Example, empathy. Empathy involves understanding power dynamics and how these affect feelings and behavior, as well as accurately perceiving situations where power dynamics come into force. Empathy includes how, how individuals see their world, appreciate them as human beings, communicate your understanding, and understand their feelings. 5. The motivation. Motivation, when considered as a component of L, refers to intrinsic motivation. Example of motivation. This has been a brief introduction into the 5 components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, social skills, empathy, and motivation. Conclusion is there are very practical reasons to promote social and emotional learning in schools from kindergarten through college. According to Goleman, bullying, disciplinary problems, violence, and drug abuse are reduced in schools with a high emotional quotient. With a solid basis in emotional intelligence, academic performance, as well as behavior improves. There is an obvious connection to Goleman's third motivational component. Learning stimulates curiosity and promotes feeling of satisfaction, even joy. When students immerse themselves in the process of assimilating new information, the EQ of children starts developing long before they ever enter a classroom. But EQ levels will vary widely depending on on each child's home environment. Thus, teachers must be able to recognize those children whose emotional literacy needs a boost. Teachers should be ready to talk about feelings in the classroom. The message is that no emotion is wrong, but certain feelings of expressing those emotions or acting on them are indeed inappropriate. For today's quote, weak people revenge, strong people forgive, intelligent people ignore. And I hope you'll learn something from my report, and thank you.